music from the Unheard of, with love from another day. And joining me in the studio is Jim and Frank from the band The Unheard of. MSE's been around 38 years, and out of those 38 years, 35 of those years, The Unheard of has been around, and has played the show every year of those 35 years. So welcome, gentlemen. Jim, good to see you again.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
All right.
Yeah, at least one show a year, usually more.
Well, that's good. That's a good record. What do you attribute to the longevity of the band?
Well, for a while we were just, we played the bars, and we would open up for bands that were, having a record release party or selling a record like Liquid Pink or the Fabulon Triptometer or Romulans. And eventually, we got around to thinking, well, we should probably do this too, release a record. And one of the founders of the Unheard of, Dave Raick, started his own record label. So he had his own band, the Muckrakers, and they had sent a single out overseas and got response from it right away. And I thought, that's just fantastic, And so we made 2 records here through Dave and Tammy, actually, their label together. And we sold them at Earwaves initially here, and then we sent them overseas. And once we sent them overseas, we started getting reviews and airplay. And after that, we had 5 more European releases because the labels over there would release stuff. So the band sort of reinvented itself a couple times, And today we got our new music is distributed through Orchard. Globally, which Sony distributes them, although we're not supposed to say that. But, oh well. Anyway, our stuff is globally. You can find the Unheard of on Amazon or Apple iTunes, that kind of stuff.
iHeartRadio, anywhere
Yeah.
that sells digital music on the internet.
Yeah, you actually got to some of my questions I wanted to ask you. It was like, I was curious, like how got that attention overseas. So who was in the original lineup way back when you first started the band?
In 1984, it was 3 of us initially. Dave Raick, Guy Roche, and myself, Jim Cabell, which I go by Jim Galaxy on stage or Fox Elder on Facebook. But anyways, it was us 3, and we formed a band, and it was a combination of doing Yardbird covers, 13th Floor Elevators. Dave brought in the ideas of covering the Stooges and the MC5, so it was a really nice mix. And eventually we thought that we should play out, and we added another guitar player at that time, this Dave Valadez. So when we played out for the first time, we were a 4-piece. And went through a couple lead players before I decided just to start writing my own songs. And about that time I came up with not Unheard of formula actually, but the formula of using the Vox keyboards and the fuzz tone and stuff, that kind of a garage formula, which the band used the Vox equipment from the start, so it was kind of a natural.
So Frank, how did you end up with these guys?
I've known them for a while before I started, but I think around '94 they were looking for a bass player because Chris Layne moved up north to UP.
So you thought, oh, here's my opportunity to hang out with these guys, and
yeah, I was in a band called False Hope, and they were friends of theirs, and I met them through them, and I saw a couple of gigs, and it was like I was on board right away as soon as I heard they needed somebody.
Yes, False Hope was kind of interesting in their own right. Their drummer Kevin Casey, his dad was Cullen Casey and was Les Paul's drummer.
Yep.
oh wow.
So it was a little Waukesha thing going on, It was kind of cool, really.
Yeah, in the '40s they played Waukesha Beach, which was Milwaukee Lake.
Yeah. If you know your history, then you're familiar with that. Right. So what venues were you playing back in those days?
Mostly, when we started out, it was just like these beer halls. You would play, and the hall would have like free beer from like 8 to 10, and the place would just be packed. And the drinking age was 18, and then you would play it, and it was just kind of crazy. And then we played at like Century Hall before it burned down. We opened for Liquid Pink, and that was a big hall too. I think it was haunted really, but it was pretty cool. And so, observing that we've been around so long, and unfortunately, of the three people that started the band, I'm the only one still around to talk about it. You know, I wish those guys were here, but you know, that's what happens when you're around so long, I guess.
They're here in spirit.
They're here in spirit, yeah. But anyways, I dug up into the vault and I found some old recordings, and actually found a recording of Century Hall when we played there.
All right. Is that what you
Yep.
have?
Yeah,
queued
that's
up
what,
here?
yeah.
All right. Anything you want to say about this? Well,
Yeah, there's a little bit of leader before the song starts.
We got 3 different kinds of CD. I'm going to vent a little bit. We have 3 different kinds of CD players here, and I'm still getting used to them. So let's give this a listen. Century Hall. I've seen many good shows there.
2?
Yeah.
Okay.
You play bass on this? No?
Dave Ray.
WMSE.
No?
The Unheard of. Yep. All right, cool. The guy called me, says, I was at the show. He says, all right, the Unheard of, live at Century Hall. Woo-hoo, for those of us old enough to remember Century Hall. A lot of good shows at that venue. So, in case you just joined us, we're here with 2 members of the Unheard of, Jim and Frank. We're kind enough to stop down today and brought some of these rarities along, and we were having fun looking at these some of the older posters and some of the bands, you know, Fabulon, Triptometer, all these great bands that were around at that time. So it's a good time. And oh, go ahead.
Yeah, it's kind of strange because I really enjoyed those bands back then, and it's now I look back and they had all fallen to the wayside at some point or another, and I know we reinvented ourselves a couple times, so it's that's part of the longevity of it too, you know.
In case you haven't heard, that Unheard of have been around for 35 years. Even I'm surprised by that. But you're still putting out some great music, so that's cool, and putting out those live shows. And all right, I'm going to go back again. All right, you guys, original band decides, all right, we're going to put out a record. It's time to put out a record. Kind of go over this with me again. Did you say, oh, we're just going to do it ourselves? Or, how did that first 45 come out?
We had a friend of ours, Jeff Schaefer, come out with his van, and he recorded us out in Waukesha. We recorded a couple songs, great quality, it was a digital tape and stuff, and that was the stuff at the time, And yeah, it was real great. We had Dave was starting a label, and I think we had a place in Nashville called United Press It Up, which I think is where Elvis had like all his records, and all the Sun records were made at like United Press, I believe. So they pressed it up, and then mailed out a couple of them overseas, And we had the record release party at the Earwaves, and that was fun because it like echoed out into the street and stuff, and it was fun doing that. But other than that, we didn't sell a whole lot here. But then I think one of the times Kerry Wolf showed up from the Pedals, and he goes, "Hey, can I buy 50 copies?" And I go, "50 copies? Holy crap!" And sure, you can buy 50 copies. And he had sent them overseas, and then he gave me one of the names of somewhere to send them, and I sent out 1 copy, and then they ordered 50 copies. And then from there, I started getting magazines where there was reviews of it, and people wanting because on the records we always had our address, so I started getting fan mail or whatever, and playlists from radio stations, and they wanted more or whatever, and then that went on for about 2 or 3 years, and then finally a French company put out an EP by us, and after that, then there was, you know, pretty much we got our market. It was over there, and always been over there since. You know, it's gotten bigger a little bit, you know, but it's all that, it's this vinyl market. Vinyl market's kind of strange. There's these zealots, and over in Europe, once you're part of their culture, you're really part of their culture. Here, you're popular this week, but you're not popular next week or whatever. It's, you know, kind of trendy that way. But over there with vinyl, they're, you know, pretty white-knuckled about it, you know.
Yeah, that was one of my questions for you. Was that a conscious effort on your part to, like, all right, we're going to put out vinyl and you know, try to tap into that market?
It was kind of funny because, you know, me and Dave Rake, we were pretty big vinyl junkies. We were always, you know, oh, what's the new vinyl record out? Oh, it's the Miracle Workers or whoever, you know, and it was, so we put out a record how we thought it would be cool, and it just happened to be, you know, the same vinyl people overseas thought just like we did and thought, oh yeah, you know, this, and over there, you know, they call our music psych pop. You know, we call it garage music, or, you know, and then the younger kids in the 90s, they thought it was like grunge music, so then they were buying the records too, you know, and kind of reinvents itself that way too. But we always thought it was garage rock, the music that I grew up listening to from my older sisters. You know, they would come over when I was little and they'd have their dance parties and they'd be listening to the Count Five or whatever, you know, and it was just, you know, kind of rubbed off on me.
You know, myself, that tactile thing, you know, allows more for the artwork and just the way vinyl feels. I know other people swear by the sound quality is so much better, and I'm just surprised. My own son, you know, it's like he wants the vinyl instead of the CD. So, you know, there's a whole new market for that. Unfortunately, sometimes the cost is kind of prohibitive, but they're printing in such small quantities that, you know, if you want it, well, you better get it while you can. And, you know, that must be kind of frustrating in a way for you, though, too, is that the people here in the U.S. have to buy your stuff as an import. You know,
Right.
You know, when you're right here.
Or come over to my house, one or the other.
All right. or pick it up at the shows, which is the best way to do it.
Right,
So,
yeah.
But and your stuff is like in Italy. You know, a record label in Italy decides to put that stuff out. I mean, it's gotta be kind of strange for you to get a letter and say, "Hey, can we put out some material of yours?" That, I mean, how does that process work? Do you just send them some tapes or whatever and say, you know?
The Italy one was Psych Out Records, and that was a guy named Cosimo Passeri, and he was running like a mail order business, and he decided to start his own label called Psych Out, and he had been buying our records for a couple of years, and then finally he said, you know, I'm starting my own label, I'd like to put something out, can I have some tracks? And I said, yeah, and he gave me, you know, it was like a lump sum of money and then some percentage of what he pressed up to bring over here to sell if I wanted, you know. But it was a limited deal, so they're like a limited pressing. There's only like maybe 500 or something of each thing that came out. But what he came out with wasn't a single like I thought. It was a double single. It was 2 7-inch records in a sleeve. Very bizarre, very unheard of, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then I look at them, and they're not 45s, they're 33s, you know. And so, and I don't know, and they're the big hole, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Our first 2 45s on Rocket Reducer were small hole. One was a 33 RPM 7-inch, another one actually was a 45.
It's just to confuse people like me, the DJs, when we go to put that on the turntable. It's like, oh,
Sure.
is this 45? You know, 33.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. I have a lot of weird memories of playing things at the wrong speeds.
Right.
But who has the say in, you know, he surprised you on that one, but who has the say in what material gets released? Did he go through and say, oh, I like these songs, or did you say, oh, these are the ones that we think are really good?
Yeah, I give them. Yeah, I give them what he's to use. You know, and somebody, you know, brought up the thought that, you know, we kind of don't have any control over it after that. I mean, he said he made, you know, 500, but who knows? Somebody could have made 1,000 and we wouldn't know. But you know, that way we sort of lose out, but not really, because there's, you know,
now
100
1,000 people.
Well, yeah, 1,000 people now that have it. You know.
Discog.com, I think it is selling our stuff, and they have been for years.
They got everything, yeah.
They got stuff we don't have anymore.
I'm surprised at how many bands did not keep copies of their own stuff.
We sell it all.
Well, it's a strange story with that. There was a band from Michigan back in the 60s called the Innsmen. And so they made a 45 and probably only sold it locally. You know, they probably only had 500 copies or something. And anyways, a record collector friend of mine had it. So in the mid-'80s, we loved the song. It was called Things Are Different Now. And so we made a recording of it on a Tascam, and that was our first airplay. Back in the 80s, it was on CCX. And anyways, my friend was selling a copy of this record on eBay. And he got a letter from this guy that was in the band. And he goes, "Oh, I didn't think any copies still survived." He goes, "I was in that band, you know." And he says he forgot all about it until he seen it on eBay.
Wow. Yeah, I remember just you bringing these memories back for me. It's like the Shivers, which is a very popular local band in the 80s. I remember speaking with Jill, and she said, "Oh, I wish I would have held on to those 45s, because now they're selling for hundreds of dollars, and we didn't hang on to them. You know, we sent them to people, and we sold them, and we didn't keep any for ourselves. You know, it's the same kind of thing. And now, you know, collectors are going out of their way to try to find it. She says, I'd be rich now if I would have held on to some of those."
Yeah. Right before the digital age got, you know, pretty big with the internet, Dietrich one day was browsing the internet, and he says, "Oh, I seen one of your early singles, and they want $70 for it." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh," you know. And now it's a little bit different, and I think all the prices have dropped because you can get it more readily through wherever, you know. But what's kind of strange is those early singles we had on Rocket Reducer. Now, Dave and Tammy said, "Well, it's not a real label," but there was the Muckrakers, there was us, there was Mona Lisa Overdrive, and we had another single on it. Now, they said it wasn't a real label, but there's people in Europe looking to complete that, the collection of everything that's on Rocket Reducer. So these collectors, it's a label, you know.
Yeah. So, yeah, I remember Chris Twining, the Muckrakers, and,
Yeah.
and, you know, a lot of people in that band went on to other bands and did other things. And,
Right.
got
And
played a
we're
lot.
in other bands before they were in that band, yeah, you know.
And are still making music today, so that's cool. You know? All right, well, let's listen to some more music. In case you're just joining us, we're speaking to Jim and Frank from the Unheard Of. And got something you want to queue up?
Yeah,
Or
4. Yeah, this is from the Stork Club.
Remember the Stork Club, another good memory for me. All right, let's listen to this.
Bye. Goodbye.
Well, I think they like them. The Unheard Of at the Stork Club. Wow. What year was that from? Do you have any?
That one's from 1989.
Wow. Wow. So, the Unheard Of, been around 35 years. We're celebrating that fact. If you just joined us, we have Jim and Frank from the band here. And Jim dug out these things from, here, I'm going to turn this down
Yeah.
just for now.
Rowdy crowd.
So we're celebrating the fact that these guys have been around for 35 years and still putting out music. People want to pick up some of your vinyl. How do they go about doing that?
I guess if you personal message me through the Unheard Of page on Facebook or Vox Elder on Facebook, you can get a hold of vinyl from me. There's digital downloads, or we got a show coming up next Friday.
I wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, there will be some vinyl albums there. Our most recent one, Tales of the Vox Elder.
And that's also like on iTunes and stuff too, isn't it? Oh, is that the MP3 one? Or no, that's the newest one.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's our vinyl. Yeah, we got the digital album. That's
All right.
self-titled, The Unheard of. That's,
All right. Yeah.
but we'll have some vinyl at the show, Tales of the Black Elder. And that's going to be at the Circle A, at live at 8 on Friday, this Friday. And we'll have an opening band, a unique band in its own right. It's an all-female band called That's What She Said.
They were just here on my last show. So
Oh.
they, performed right here where you're sitting. So.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a great, kind of an unusual lineup, but a great lineup.
Yeah, they switch, different songs have a different percussionist, I'm told, so that's interesting.
That'll be a good show. So. You have any other gigs lined up after Circle A, or kind of?
Not right now.
All right. So well, we'll keep people informed, and you are on social media, so check out the Unheard Of on Facebook and that, so you can keep up with the latest shows and all that. So I don't know, anything else you want to talk about, or should we listen to some more music, or
Well, let's listen to another song.
anything special you want me to cue up here?
Yeah, the next one.
All right. Anything you want to say about this? Or?
It's another one from the Star Club.
All right, let's listen. Man, the Star Club. Wow. let's listen to this. Music from the Unheard Of. Talk about it. I mean, I like talking to you. All right, I'm taking a small break. Going down memory lane here. So we've been speaking with Jim and Frank from the Unheard Of. Jim, thanks for bringing some of these rarities down and bringing all kinds of memories back for me. Century Hall, Store Club.
Yeah, that stuff hasn't seen the light of day in 30 years. So.
And congratulations, for being around for 35 years and putting out all this great music. And plug that show one more time.
Yes, the Circle A this Friday, live at 8.
So we've been getting some phone calls, people enjoying the music. So here's your chance to get out and see it live and be able to say, yeah, I was there. So
Yes, we'll have vinyl there for those collectors or fans.
It's actually a birthday party too, Dietrich and myself.
Oh, well, happy birthday to
Within
you
a couple
guys.
days of each other.
So
Yeah, the current lineup, I suppose I should tell everybody what the current lineup is. It's, Jim Galaxy, we got Frank Milligan on bass, we got Ted Noble on drums, and we got Mark Dietrich on keyboards and guitar.
Dietrich does a show here, and in full disclosure, Ted is my brother. So,
And it's a new reinvention of the band with Ted. We get a new guy, it's all different.
Well, I urge you to check that out, and you'll have a good time. And it's a great lineup, and an early show for those of you who can't stay up late. So.
Yep, 9 o'clock is the new midnight.
And weird enough, that's happening in Chicago too. I remember going to Chicago and having to wait till like 2 in the morning for the main band to come on. That's all different now. Even Chicago's like you can't stay up late anymore, which is kind of strange.
Yeah, right.
So again, thanks for bringing these rarities down, and congratulations for being around this long. And I urge the audience to get out there and see the show. We got some positive phone calls during the interview, so I urge you to get out there and check it out. They are on social media. Just look up the Unheard Of, and you'll find what you need to know. So I'm going to end things out with one more thing I have, and again, thank you guys for stopping down.
Thanks for having us.
Yep, thanks for having us.
Hey! We'll make you famous. We'll make you famous.
Almost.